So we wanted to talk today about operational reporting and some of the similarities and differences between Dynamics GP and DeFi Business Central. With a lot of our clients, trying to assist them in migrating, moving from GP over to Business Central. We're just kind of trying to identify some of the similarities and some of the differences. And today we're going to focus on some operational reporting. Let's start inside GP and let's talk about some aging reports. That's a pretty common operational report. And if we go into the purchasing section, this first part's going to look familiar to anybody that's using GP. You get into the reports and we're looking at historical age trial balance. We have a lot of options here. We can identify the as of date. And so I'm in the Fabricam demo company, by the way. We can identify the as of date. We can identify which date to use, a GL posting date or a document date. So we have some choices there. We can identify whether it's summary or detail. And then we've got some filters. We've got a few filters that we can do, and that's pretty much familiar to everybody that's been using GP for a while. If we get into Business Central, if you've been to any of our other webinars, you know that in Business Central, it's all about the search. Everything search. Let's look at aged, and let's look at aged accounts payable. Now, you've got to be a little careful here. There is a spreadsheet that has the same name. We want the one that says view and print a list. So let's go ahead, go there. That's going to open a window where it's going to give us some similar options. There's the age as of date, just like there was in GP. The next field down is which date, and there's actually three choices there. So we have some more choices there. We can do the document date or the transaction date or the due date. This is a little different. In GP, we configure your company to have aging periods. And that's one of the things that was set up when you first implemented GP, however many years ago that was, is what are your aging periods? Are they 30, 60, 90, or are they 30, 45, 60? What are they? In Business Central, that's not a configuration setting. In Business Central, we're going to make that choice every time we run the report. So if today I want to run it every 30 days, that's fine. But maybe next time I run it, I want to run a quarterly aging, or I might say 90 days. Or I suppose if it's quarterly, I could do 3 months. And so that's a choice we make every time we run the report. That's a difference, actually. We can identify if they're overdue by a certain dollar amount. We can identify, do we want to print in the vendor's originating currency or in the functional currency? And we can also identify, here's our summary detail option. So we're going to have that. And then in Business Central, we can identify, do we want to print the internal or the external or both? And so here we're going to say we want to print both. Again, we have filters, just like we did in GP. We actually have a lot more filters. These are some default filters, but I could filter by just about anything. A lot of stuff I could filter by. And then I'll go ahead and preview it. And this is going to open up an age trial balance. I'll make it bigger so you can actually see it. Pretty basic stuff. It's just an aging. It shows for a vendor. So this is a vendor Fabricam, and it gives some information about the vendor. And then it identifies that there's 2 invoices outstanding and what their aging is. So here we've got one that's 30 days out. And then it does that again for the next vendor. And of course, we can scroll to the bottom and get our totals. And similarly, I'll go ahead and close this. Accounts receivable, same thing. So aged receivable. Notice how I'm just abbreviating it. And again, the search finds it. We'll go ahead and do that. Here again, we have the as of date. We have the same 3 dates that we can choose. I can pick an aging period. Do we want amounts in the customer's originating currency, detail versus summary? Of course, all the posting groups, all the filters. Posting group, whether it's a customer or a vendor posting group, just for definition for you, that's a rough equivalent to a customer class over in GP. So in GP, there's vendor classes and customer classes. In Business Central, we call them posting groups. But again, on the customer side, I could have virtually any. I could sort by virtually anything. Anything that's in that table, I could filter. I'll go ahead and click preview. And we'll make it big so you can see it. And there again, that's an aging with the customers and their their balances. One thing I didn't show you on the payable side, this is true throughout the system, there's the send to button where I can send it to virtually any document type. Do I want to send it to PDF or, yeah. These Excel options are kind of interesting. I could say data only, and let's look at that. Let's have a look at what that does. So that's going to open up over here, and I'll open up that spreadsheet. So this is the aging with just the data. That way it's a table that maybe you want to write some reports off of, but it just threw every field out to a table. We'll close that. Gotta go look it up again. Find that same report. I'll turn on, okay. And then I'll say send to, and this time we'll do data and layout. And this is gonna drop it to Excel, all formatted pretty. So some additional options there. We'll make it big so you can see it. But yeah, some additional options there on the accounts, on the aging. A couple other reports I wanted to show you. If we look at outstanding sales order aging. So this is going to be open sales orders that have not been posted yet. That have not been posted yet. And we can get an aging of these, just like we can of posted invoices. So again, same options, summary, detail, customers originating currency or not, and of course the filters. If I print that, that's going to show us list of outstanding sales orders and how old they are. We could do the same thing on the purchasing side, outstanding purchase orders and how old they are. Probably more relevant on the purchasing side actually, but wanted to show you that. Another report that I wanted to show you, again, just operational reporting, is let's have a look at a customer statement. So this is a pretty common one that's part of the accounting cycle. Some options here. Do we want to print all customers that have an entry in the period, or only ones that have a balance? For example, if you invoiced a customer on the 10th and then they paid that bill on the 14th, they're right back down to a zero balance. Do we want to print a statement for that customer? And we would turn that on or off right there. Do we want to print everything that has a balance? In other words, if the customer had no activity, maybe they haven't bought from us in 3 months. So they have a balance, but they don't have activity this month. And so then that's another toggle that we can turn on. Are we updating a statement number? The system has the ability to track a statement number similar to an invoice number. Sometimes people use that, sometimes they don't. We can certainly turn that on and off. Are we printing the company address? So our company's address, are we actually going to print that? Yes or no? Here's something that, again, a little different. Over in GP, let me just jump back there a minute, and let's look at a customer card. We'll close these windows. If I go to sales and I look at a customer, in GP, we're going to identify this customer as open item or balance forward on the customer card. In Business Central, the data is just there all the time, and we determine every time we print statements, do we want this to be a style, an open item style or a balance brought forward style? And then Business Central will do the math and apply that. Do we want to do an aging by, again, our dates? How do we want our periods? The length of our periods, we could just put 30 days. Logging interaction, whether or not we're logging the interaction for that, we would train you on how to do that. Print, are we going to email them? If there's email addresses on file. Of course, filters, you can filter by anything. And then I'll just preview it here. Oh, I got to give it a date filter. 4/12. And here it's going to print statements for all my customers. So you see it printed our address up there. We can work with you to customize this to get a logo on it. Maybe you want grid lines. Maybe there's, yeah, this is the out of the customer statement. This can be emailed. It can be, you know, again, we've got all these options. You can drop to a Word document, etc. that's kind of operational reporting. Let's look at one more. Let's look at a purchase order. And I'm just going to grab an existing one. So this is a purchase order. We have some header information on the top where we've identified maybe it's departments, customer groups, etc. We identified a vendor, and then we come down here. We have line items, just like you do on any other purchase order. And here, what I can do is I can print. I can send it directly to my vendor. I could attach it as a PDF. Let's just print a preview real quick so you see what it looks like, and we'll go ahead and preview. This one for the demo company has been modified a little bit, just to add some color. But you can see we got a purchase order with subtotals and dollars and line items. You can, while I'm here, I know this isn't part of operational reporting, but let me just show you this little feature. When we talk about line items on a sales order or a purchase order, we have some types. I can enter a comment, in which case I can enter a comment, any comment. And that's a nice feature that a lot of our clients really like. Not part of operational reporting, but I thought I'd throw that in there for you. Another way we can do reporting in GP is, and everybody's familiar with this, is smart lists. If I go back to GP and I look at smart lists, everybody that works in GP is familiar with smart lists. We can look at sales, we can look at sales transactions, open it big so we can actually see it. We can look at open invoices, and here's some open invoices. So let's do that in Business Central. If I look at sales invoices, these would be unposted sales invoices, and they're in a grid. Virtually every list inside Business Central is going to function this way, whether it's open purchase orders or open receipts or items or even the master records, even the customer cards or the vendor cards, the item cards, etc. are all gonna live in a grid like this that looks and feels a lot like Smart List. So I can sort by virtually any column. I can filter. Just like I can in Smart List, I can filter. So I can come over here and I can add a filter, and I can say, show me only the ones that have customer group fast, stuff like that. And then you see that there's that filter. I can clear that filter. And so we can go do that on sales invoices. We could add columns, add or remove columns. That's in a personalized area. I could move this over. I could maybe the assigned user, I want to move that over. I could add columns. If I say add field, here's all the fields I can add. Maybe I want to add a document date. I want to add a status. Add that. So you can see this, that it's functioning an awful lot like Smart List as an inherent functionality within the system. And this particular example I'm looking at here is open sales invoices. The equivalent over in GP is going to be sales transactions and open invoices. And you're familiar, everybody here is familiar with Smart List. I can add columns, I can move the columns around, I can click search to start doing some filtering. So in that regard, then and everything in Business Central is going to function this way with filters and so forth. Now, if I need to open this invoice and I want to look at it, I can edit it right here, and so then that will open up. Takes a minute. It will open up the actual invoice. And here we have header information on the top and line items and then some subtotals and so forth at the bottom. That smart list type of searching and querying is inherent throughout the system. But if you need something different, if you need something a little more than just that basic queries, maybe you need to join some tables together or write some more customized reports. There is another system that we can certainly talk about. This is PopDoc, and let me just go back to the home screen. So this is a product by eOne Solutions called PopDoc. It runs in a browser, and you would log in with your user ID and password. I have some connectors. This is going to be connecting to your Business Central data. And then there's a lot of default lists, but you can make new ones. So if I was to add a tab, so here's a tab that I put here this morning just in preparation for today. These are my chart of accounts, just to use a list as an example. I can move the columns around. I can sort by things, or I can turn the sort off. Maybe I want to sort by account number descending, and I can remove columns. If I just click any column, and then I come down here and I want to remove columns. Oops, I want to remove what would I want to remove? The type. I don't know, remove something, right? I can add columns. So here's all the columns I can add. I could do that with, we've been kind of playing with sales invoices, so let's do that. I want to find a default list. I'll find it by that connector, and I'll look at Cronus, and I'll look at, we'll look at sales, and let's look at open sales invoices. And then you can have a default view. I just have a default view, but you might, if you want to save a favorite, you might have favorites down there. I don't have any favorites on this one. But now this is going to go, and this is Skippy. We call him Skippy. This is going to go and find all my open invoices. Again, I can add columns. If I want to add whatever columns I need to the invoice, I can move columns around. If I want to say, get rid of that total one, but what I really want to see is the document amount. We'll add that one and some document numbers, and I'll go ahead and select those. If I need to see details, now this is interesting in PopDoc. I mentioned if you need to join tables together or add related tables or something like that. This is kind of like drilling down into the transaction that you would do in SmartList. You're going to drill into the transaction. Here I'm going to click this lines button, and it tells me a record hasn't been selected, so I have to select a record. We'll go ahead and select that invoice, and it's going to load for a minute, and then it's going to say, here's your invoices. Here's your line items that are on the invoice. This particular one looks like it's paid in full. So yeah, so we could add another one. Let's find by connector. Let's select a company, Cronus. We'll select a group. Let's look at purchasing, and let's look at purchase orders. And there again, I can see the lines. Oh, I got to select the record. Here you see it picked up my comment. Remember over there, I showed you that comment. I said, look, you can add a comment, enter any comment. So there it picked it up because the data is connected. So that's PopDoc. If we look at the chart again, for example, I could export this to Excel just like I can in SmartList. I can add, remove columns. We can change our maximums. Here you see it's looking for the first 100. Maybe I want to find the first 1,000 records, 10,000. We can have custom lists where we might join two things together. Maybe you need to join customers and vendors together, maybe or whatever. We can do compare lists. I can add filters. I haven't added any on this yet, but we can certainly do that here. And then this is kind of fun. So right now, this is a list. It's just a grid. If I wanted to, I could show it as a chart. And then as a chart, I can control which settings. So maybe I want it to be a donut chart. What's the sum method? And actually a chart of accounts probably wouldn't work so good on this. Let's go to purchase orders. Because then I want to add a column. I want to add the amount. Actually get an amount. And then I can convert that to 0 to a chart by type, by dollar amount, or category. And I want to change this to amount, and by value or by category. And depending on how I set some of those, we're going to get different results. So you can do that. You can also just do it as plain text. Maybe you need to drop this to a CSV file for something. That's a good method if you need to send a file to the bank of all for your checks, kind of thing, for deposit and pay. You could set up a PopDoc and then just run it for the current batch and drop it to Excel like that. The third option that we have, and I'll go ahead and bring this over, is Power BI. So this is just a simple report that I whipped up in Business Central just to show customers and their aging and what their balance due is as of a certain date. If you're familiar at all with Business Central, we're going to open the query editor to actually go get the data. Of course, it opens over on my other screen. And we can transform the data if we need to, and that's all a Power BI function. Then over in the main area, we can add fields. I could grab some customers and I can maybe add the city. That's not what I wanted. I want to add the city here. And then it adds the city to my grid. Once we take that, now I'm running, this is the Power BI local desktop version. But once we take that and we put it up in the cloud, into the Power BI cloud, if I go to my workspace, yeah, got it. We can see, you would be able to load it up to your Power BI workspace. Once it's there, if I go back to Business Central and I load a Power BI extension, and if I scroll down here, we have Power BI reports that are connected. I can, and you'd be able to select whatever reports you want to use, and they would show up here. And so then using Power BI, you can create those and set them up in the service in the cloud, and then have them available inside Business Central. So there's operational reporting inside Business Central, and we saw some examples of the aging and so forth. The general grid reporting in Business Central can also be used very similar to SmartList. If we need to go farther, we have a couple options. We can look at Solver, and we can also look at Power BI to be able to custom write additional reports if necessary. Is there any questions? I see we got some more attendees.
Yep.
Allie, do you have any questions?
Yep, we have a few questions.
Okay.
First one being, what if you want to age all accounts?
Age all accounts. Then just don't put a filter on it. I mean, on the aging report. And in the examples I did not put a filter. So it's therefore it aged all open accounts without a filter.
Thank you. And then our second question is, for statements, can you print all except for credit card balance or credit balance? Sorry.
Yes, you would put a balance. You would add a filter for the balance and put it as greater than 0. So there again, you're using those filters.
Thank you.
Yep.
And our last question is for sales invoices grid. Can you do field comparison like SmartList?
You can in PopDoc, not necessarily in Business Central. In PopDoc, you would create a calculated field that does a compare. Another way to do it is you could actually create a compare list that compares 2 lists. So yeah, that would be an example of kind of an advanced feature that you would want to get PopDoc for, not necessarily in Business Central.
Great, thank you. Those are all of the questions that we've had.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining, everyone.